Hey guys, Bud here with another tutorial from PremiumBeat.com. Today we're going to be talking about aspect ratios, and specifically, the 6 things that you need to take into consideration when cropping your 16:9 footage to a wider aspect ratio. So let's get to it. Cropping your 16:9 footage to a wider aspect ratio can instantly give you a more cinematic looking image. Professional camera systems such as the Red and the Arri Alexa series can record aspect ratios wider than 16:9, such as 2.39:1 or scope. Most DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, however, force you to record your footage at a 16:9 aspect ratio. How do you take advantage of the cinematic qualities of a wider aspect ratio if you're forced to shoot on 16:9? Well, the strategy here is to go ahead and shoot on 16:9 and then crop your image in post-production. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that today, and I'm going to share with you 6 considerations to take into account when deciding to crop your 16:9 footage to a wider aspect ratio. The decision to deliver your project in a wider aspect ratio should be made in pre-production, not in the editing room after you've already shot your footage. It's important to keep in mind that your aspect ratio influences framing. Therefore, your shot composition, your lensing choices, things like lighting and production design, your storyboards are all going to be influenced by what aspect ratio you decide to use. Therefore, it's important to make the decision to deliver your project in a wider aspect ratio long before you start shooting, and certainly before you're in the editing room. This leads us to our second consideration, which is, if you do decide to shoot at a wider aspect ratio, don't keep it a secret. There are other department heads on your production that are going to want to know about this decision. First and foremost, this is a decision that you should have made with your director. After that, it's important to inform other department heads of this decision. If you're shooting a commercial project, does the client know that you're wanting to deliver the product in a wider aspect ratio than 16:9? They'll probably want to know this. If you're shooting at a wider aspect ratio, you'll naturally be selecting wider lenses. If your field of view is wider, that means we're going to be seeing more of the set, we're going to be seeing more of the environment, and that's going to influence things such as lighting and production design. Both of these department heads are going to want to know about this decision, so don't keep it a secret. When delivering your project at a wider aspect ratio, in general, you're going to want to lens your project slightly wider than normal. This is to account for the lost pixels that you're going to lose at the top and the bottom of your image when you crop to a wider aspect ratio in post. Not to mention, a wider field of view is going to accentuate the immersive qualities of a wide aspect ratio to begin with. So you've made the decision to deliver your project at a wider aspect ratio, such as 2.39:1, and you've lensed your project accordingly. So how do you actually compose your shots if you're going to be cropping that footage from 16:9 to something wider? Most DSLRs, mirrorless cameras, and external monitors come with some sort of on-screen guide to help you frame your shots. If your camera or your monitor doesn't come with these composition guides, you can take 2 thin strips of black gaffer's tape and place them over the top and the bottom of your LCD screen to help you approximate where the crop is going to occur. This can work in a pinch, and it can always be fine-tuned in post-production. So now you've shot your footage. It's time to ingest your media into your editing software and to crop it to a wider aspect ratio. You can accomplish this with the use of something called a PNG overlay. These overlays are simply images of black bars placed at the top and the bottom of your frame. These overlays are designed to crop a 16:9 image to that of a wider aspect ratio, and they work in the same way as the framing guides that you used on your camera or your external monitor. So to begin, you'll need to find and download the appropriate aspect ratio overlays. You can download a set of overlays that we've provided for you here in this article. Once downloaded, select the appropriate crop for your project and import this into your editing software. place it on the topmost video layer in your sequence, and once in place, lock off the layer, and edit your sequence as you normally would. By utilizing these transparent overlays, you'll actually be able to see what the final output of your project will look like once it's been cropped. If you compose your shots correctly during the shoot, there's no need to make adjustments here. However, you can reframe your subject along the vertical axis if need be. If you're shooting 4K and delivering at 1080p, you can also scale your image up and make adjustments along the horizontal axis as well. Once your project is complete, it's time to export. Before exporting, be sure to turn off your PNG overlay layer. Then navigate to File, Export, and in the Export Settings dialog box, select the Source tab and hit the Crop button at the top left corner of the dialog box. Now this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of math. In this project, I'm cropping my 16:9 footage to an aspect ratio of 2.39 to 1. To do so, I need to solve the following equation. 2.39 divided by 1 equals 1920 divided by x. Now here I'm going to have to solve for x. I know from doing this in the past that x equals 803. So I know my final output of my project in a 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio is going to be 1920 by 803. But we're not done yet. We need to find out how many pixels to subtract from the top of our image and the bottom of our image. To do so, we're going to take the original 16:9 height, which is 1080, and we're going to subtract 803 from it, which gives us 277 pixels. This is the total amount that we're going to need to subtract from the height of our image. Now to figure out how many pixels to take off the top and to take off the bottom, all we have to do is divide 277 by 2, and that gives us 138.5. Now we can't crop by half a pixel, so we're just going to have to split the difference here by cropping 138 pixels from the top and 139 pixels from the bottom, which gives us 277 total. Once I've plugged these values into my crop, I can finish filling out my export settings as usual, with one exception. Under Video Settings, I'm going to make sure that my final resolution is 1920 by 803, and I'm good to go. For more information on aspect ratio and other production and post-production tips, be sure to check out the awesome PremiumBeat articles found at the bottom of this article. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.